Hello, it's Friday, 10 o'clock. Hello, all you beautiful people out there. How is everyone? It's Donna coming at you again on a Friday. And today I'm going to give you my very simple and perfect salmon recipe. Perfect because it always comes out perfectly. It's very easy to overcook salmon. So I have it down to a science and it always comes out beautifully. So I'm going to go over that. I'm going to talk a little bit about food wisdom and just want to tell you right up front, I apologize if it's going to get a little offensive to anyone. Um, uh, I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not judging anyone. I just want you to know that just wanting to bring a little bit of awareness about what we're eating and what's in our food and how it's raised and how good or not good it is for the environment. So I might get on a bit of a rampage later, but I'm going to tell you about the salmon recipe first. And I'm a little bit sleepy today. I was up till almost 1 o'clock last night, which is totally unheard of for me. Having fun with my kids, and Alex, my son, is here only 2 more weeks. He was teaching me ukulele. We were jumping rope. We were doing all kinds of crazy things, and we were using this hula hoop, which I want to show you because it's a really good ab workout. So it's a giant weighted hula hoop. And if you're going to try it, don't do it occasionally because I'm really sore. Once you do it a few times, you build up whatever calluses. I don't know. It doesn't hurt anymore after you do it regularly, but so you don't want to do this occasionally because I'm very sore from last night. So we were doing hula hoops. We were playing ukulele. It was crazy. We only got started at 8. We started cooking at 8. And therefore, things got a little late. So I'm normally not up that late unless I'm out dancing to live music. Then I stay up very late. But anyway, wanted to share some things about what I'm making for dinner tonight. And I have the salmon that I got, and it is frozen. So I wanted to tell you how I prepare it. When you take it out of the freezer, and you need to pat it dry once it's defrosted. So you defrost it in the freezer, and it'll get very, soggy kind of. So it doesn't look the greatest once it's defrosted, but you pat it dry really well. And then what I do is put mayonnaise on it. Now, sounds a little bit weird, but what the mayonnaise does is it seals in the juices. And I actually learned that from my brother-in-law, Peter Kelly, who recently passed from the coronavirus, by the way, and bless his soul. I hope he's in a better place, and bless all of those loved ones that he left behind. So sending healing thoughts there. But he is the one that originally taught me to put the mayonnaise on the salmon, and it works really well. So you put the salmon, you pat it dry, and here I prepared it because we're having it tonight. And you put the mayonnaise on there, and then I put a saffron seasoning on there and a little bit of sea salt. Now the saffron is not pure saffron. It's got some other things in it, turmeric, and I'm not sure what else, actually. I don't remember. I've had it a while. You can get just pure saffron, which is kind of flaky, but this had other things mixed in, but it definitely had saffron in there. And so what I'm going to do is broil it for exactly 7 minutes. So this particular fillet is kind of thin. If it's thicker, then you want to do 8 minutes. So I get the oven ready. I put it on broil. I get it nice and hot. And then I stick my salmon in, and I put the clock on for 7 minutes, the timer. Now, not all ovens are made equal, so you have to kind of experiment with your oven. With my oven, 7 minutes is perfect. If it's thicker, I do it 8 minutes. So you got to kind of see what works for you, but once you know, then you do it at that same time every time. It's very easy to overcook salmon. It tastes very dry. It totally is not very good. So anyway, that's my trick. Now, not all mayonnaise is made equal. So let's talk a little bit about mayonnaise. So I happen to buy this one, which I get at the grocery outlet, actually. You can tell by looking at the ingredients, okay? So there's only like 5 ingredients in this mayonnaise. If you look at like, Best Foods mayonnaise or a typical brand of mayonnaise, there's probably like 25 ingredients in it. And you're going to find soybean oil in it. So I try to stay away from soy. My body weakens from soy. I know that through applied kinesiology. And soy is highly processed. Soy, at least in our country, highly processed, highly genetically modified, and it's in just about everything that's packaged. I mean, look at crackers, bread. Almost every loaf of bread on the shelf in a grocery store has soybean oil in it, or high fructose corn syrup. Corn and soy are the 2 ingredients that they put in just about every packaged food. So you got to be, if you want to stay away from these foods, then read your labels. And so that's why I use this mayonnaise. Now, what's I going to say about the broiling? Anyway, this is the salmon that I got. I got this at the grocery outlet too. And I was really excited because it says wild caught on it. So I try really hard to stay away from commercially raised meats, dairies, eggs, fish, things like that, seafood. Now, this, I was excited because it was wild caught and it didn't cost me a fortune, a small fortune, which typically salmon that's from wild caught is going to cost a lot in a local health food store, for example. But farmed fish, I don't know if you've ever looked online at pictures, it's not pretty. How animals in general are raised commercially. And fish, you're going to find fish just jam-packed in a small area of water, and it's just really displeasing, at least to me. I know that not everybody can afford locally raised meats and that kind of thing. So, it depends on your budget and everything, but just a little bit of awareness about that. I try not to eat that much meat in general, because also it's just not good for our environment. The methane gas that's released is not sustainable. And I just know too much about how those animals are raised, not to mention that they're pumped up with antibiotics. They're full of stress hormones. It's really just not even that good for us. So what I try to do is buy local meats. I get my eggs from previous neighbors. And now I do live in the country, so it's easy for me to access these kinds of things. But these chickens are free range. They eat the bugs in the grass. That's really makes the eggs nutritious. And meats, for example, in our area, and by word of mouth, you can typically find small ranchers, small farmers. You can buy a half a cow, for example. So I do that with people I know because it's a lot of meat. So we kind of go in on it together. And the cow is actually, it actually makes a difference how the cow is slaughtered. And it's really hard talking about this, but people should know about it. And if the particular neighbor I get beef from, she comes to the, she has them come to her ranch to slaughter the cow. So it happens like that. They don't even know it's happening. They're not being transported somewhere where they're going to be full of stress, and those stress hormones go into the meat, and then we digest that, we eat that. So it's really good if they're slaughtered on site. Then it's taken off site to be butchered and hung dry and then packaged. Now it is a little more expensive. Just eat less, that's what I try to do. So that's a little bit about the locally, or you can get it at like a local health food store as well. So, and you kind of need to know the brands that you're buying if you want it a little more sustainable, humanely raised. For example, this Applegate brand I get at our local health food stores look for food co-ops. Okay, there are food co-ops across the country. Most highly populated areas will have one, and they're going to buy more local foods. They're going to get their produce from local small farms. They're going to get their meats from local ranchers, and those animals are going to be free range. It's more humane. They're not pumped with all the chemicals and hormones. They're not under all that stress. They're getting great nutrients because they're grass fed. It makes a difference. So this brand, I think Applegate is California. But if you go to our local co-op, you'll get meats from local ranchers, and that's where they get it from. So if you can find somebody that has their own cow that they're selling off, great. Otherwise, you can go to the health food stores. The other thing I'm doing is getting a CSA. So I don't even know what it stands for, but it's a cooperative kind of food sourced program. So it's local people who grow food, and they do a lot of it, and then they sell boxes of it weekly or monthly to people, and you kind of sign up at the beginning of the season. So I just got my first box for the season, and I'm so excited about it. So this is a yoga teacher of mine that grows, and she actually is now doing mushrooms year round. These are oyster mushrooms. They are fabulous, and they came right from her garden like 2 days ago. So I got a whole pound of these oyster mushrooms, and the way I cook those is very simple. You just chop them up, you saute them in ghee or butter. You could use coconut oil. I like the butter with garlic and salt and pepper, and that's it until they're kind of soft. And then, hi, Andrea, thanks for coming. So I got a whole bunch of these oyster mushrooms. She gave me these microgreens, which are actually radish microgreens. Now she calls them microgreens because she harvests them while they're still small. These would turn into radish plants. So very similar to sprouting. In fact, my next batch of broccoli sprouts, boy, the color on this camera is not very pretty. It's a very beautiful green color, and those are ready to go. The other thing I got in my box was these beautiful chives that are kind of flowering already, and they look purple in the camera, but they're actually a really pretty pink, purpley color, like more of a pink. And then she had fennel in there, which fennel is one of those foods. Fennel and beets are the two foods I just do not care for. So I'll probably give that to a neighbor. And then a whole bunch of fresh oregano, which is starting to go limp. So I'm going to eat it up fast. And I don't really cook that much with oregano, but I should try. But what I did do yesterday was I took one of these goat cheese logs, because I don't do cow dairy either. So I try to do sheep and goat cheeses. So this is just a little log of goat cheese softs. I put it in a bowl. I drizzle olive oil over it, and then I just chopped a bunch of that oregano right on top, and the chives. And then we just put it on crackers, or you can put it on cucumber slices. If you're going keto, by the way, that's what I forgot to mention at the beginning. Wanted to give you an update on the ketogenic diet cleanse. It's not happening for me. I'm going to be totally brutally honest. But I did do it for 3 days, very strict, and it was almost like a semi-fast. I was only doing about 1,200 calories a day. And that was perfect just to cut the habits I was falling into. It was kind of a reset. So I didn't stick with it. I will be doing it in the near future. My son's here only 2 more weeks. We have so much fun cooking in the kitchen and making up all these concoctions. So I decided, I know it's an excuse, but I'm not just not going to do it now. And I'm not going to be hard on myself about it. So anyway, no go on the keto, but I did do it for 3 days, and it was awesome to just break that snacking habit that I was starting to get into, being at home all day. And so what else? I think that's about it. Any questions for me? Hi, Anathea. Thank you for coming. I wanted to talk just a couple minutes too about recycling. I learned not too long ago that they don't recycle, maybe just a little, but it's not very common in Nevada state, and I was shocked. I just assumed they recycle everywhere. And maybe it's just because I've lived in states and countries where they recycle religiously. For the past 40 years, I have. It's been, first of all, well, in California for the bulk of that time, and we recycle here. Although honestly, I don't think most of our recycling actually gets recycled because we can't handle it. And I don't know what is up with this country and why we can't get our act together on recycling. I mean, it seems like just a basic thing. In Switzerland, which I'm also from Switzerland, 40 years ago when I was 12, we were recycling. And granted, Switzerland's a very small country. It's about 1/5 the size of Ohio State. So a lot easier to keep control of these things. But back 40 years ago when I was 12, we recycled everything. And in fact, in Switzerland, garbage, just getting rid of your garbage is very costly. It's a small fortune, and it's the way it should be. In the United States, it's just too easy for people to be lazy about these things. People don't want to pay to take their trash. You know, I used to live a mile down a dirt road only just about a year ago, and we'd constantly find trash on our road. People would just dump because they didn't want to pay to take it to the transfer station. So we have to pay for garbage here, but not like in Switzerland. It's very costly. And what do people do? They reuse things. They don't generate a lot of trash when it costs that much to throw it out, to have it picked up. But there was recycling back then. Even back then in Swiss stores, they were charging for bags. Now that just happened here recently in the United States. I don't even know if it's all over. It's in California, but and yet there's still stores like Safeway that just eat the cost of the bags, and they still give them out free. Plastic, it's a different kind of plastic, but even the paper bags, you know. So in Switzerland, they charge for every bag, and so people use reusable bags, and this has been going on for years. Gas is 4 times the cost. People don't drive as much. Now, I know it's a very small country. It's easier to get around on public transportation, but these laws are good, you know, and we need to do more of that here, I feel. For example, in Switzerland, everybody washes their clothing at night when there's a lot more energy, but because they charge less in the middle of the night because they want people to not use as much during the day. So all the wash machines and dryers are programmable, and my parents would always run their machines in the middle of the night by programming them, and that's just like common stuff. And this was, like I said, 40 years ago. So I just hope that we wake up here. It's so needed. It's so important. I don't know. You can just go online and look at the islands that go for miles and miles, islands of plastic just floating in our oceans. I mean, I think like with the animals and how they're raised commercially, I think if people, you know, me too, I went online actually this morning to take a look at some photos, and it broke my heart. Makes me want to go vegan, vegetarian, definitely eat much less meat. But it just breaks my heart to see those photographs of how commercially raised animals are treated and how they live. So for humane reasons, but for health reasons and for the environment, try to eat less meat and try to get it local if you can. All right, that's it. Thanks. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Bobby. So good to have you on. Yeah, great. Yes, CSA means community supported agriculture. Thank you, Bobby. Love CSA. It's so fresh. When you eat vegetables that have come right out of the garden that haven't been on a truck somewhere being transported and then in the grocery store and then in our fridge and then into our mouths, you just get so many more nutrients. There's so much more chlorophyll in those foods, in those produce. It's just so much better for us. So CSA is a great option. Plus, it supports local community. It keeps people eating locally. The foods that they're consuming is local. It's less gas, less harm on the environment when it's being shipped all over. Now, this wild caught salmon, um, unfortunately, I see came from China. So sadly, this came a long way. So yeah, it's wild caught, but I needed to really pay attention to the labels, and I see there's some kind of preservative as well, which is a chemical. It's called sodium triphosphate. Not liking that at all either. So I'm going to see what I can find because, you know, getting fresh salmon is very costly. So thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. Namaste. Have a beautiful day, and we'll catch you again soon.